good work in.
Pretty dead.
Would you work outside if it rained? Or would you guys
Yeah, we would. Yeah. Lightning's the only time we would.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Coach, whenever you're ready, sir.
Okay, guys. I think one of the things that has become very evident is the new staff members are making an impact. I got a ton of conviction about the new people that we've added to our team. And I'll tell you, man, it's given me a little bit of energy. I can't compliment that group as a whole. You talk about Ron Roberts, Will Harris, Gerald Chapman, Joe Houston, John DeCoster, Jake Sankel. Obviously, Tyler was with us last year in a different role. But new staff members are making an impact. And I think the other thing I would say is that we come off of spring break, and Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and we finished strong today. I thought we knocked the rust off Tuesday. Defense probably got the best of the offense on Thursday, and then the offense probably won today. But it was competitive. There's intensity. There's a little different level of focus with this group. I think there's a healthy respect between the offense and the defense, and I think we're making progress there. We're building culture. I think we can compete and still come back together and be a team. For the first time, you've got experience, you've got some young talent, there's depth, so there's more competition, right? So overall, I would say the new staff members are making an impact, and I think that the practice has been intense, focused, competitive. We're getting better because of that. So I think we got to continue to learn how to practice. But overall, it's been a good week. It's good to finish the right way today.
Where do you see that impact? And then you've had some coaching turnover, but also the coaches that have been here, you always say we don't have to teach the coaches. The coaches know our systems and our program. So what's, I guess, that learning curve for new coaches versus being a fresh voice for the guys to hear? Yeah,
continuity in system helps, right? And then continuity in process helps. And I think we'll continue to, we get more efficient. We refine all that. We're able to run a good practice, partly because the equipment crew, the video crew, the second-tier staff, I know there's a lot to be said about the bigger staff and the infrastructure and those things, but it does allow you to absorb attrition, right? So new leadership, but the people underneath those people help get them up to speed, and I think that's the theory behind it. So third year doing this, and I think the practice format and approach has stayed relatively the same. And there's some familiarity, right, with guys like Ron, who have been with me in the past, and then certainly some new ideas, from some really the new coaches who work for, some really accomplished coaches, right? Fritz, Peterson, Lake, Belichick, NFL, background. So I think all of that has it's been good for our team.
Is staff continuity, assistant coaching staff continuity, increasingly difficult these days?
Yeah, I think if you take a look around the league, it's always, in my opinion, been kind of a 25 to 30% throughout the entire organization. I think you can always anticipate losing about that much. Whether you're making changes or you lose people to promotions. I think we have people in charge of that, right? Preparing for when we do have openings. We're always kind of building that database. And I would tell you that workforce this year, we were prepared and went through some processes, but ultimately hired good people.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, do you guys kind of have a roster maybe behind the scenes, and so it doesn't create stress?
100%. Have a staff member assigned to do that, and they're in charge of that, throughout the entire year. You kind of build in a little contingency plans, because I think you got to protect yourself in that regard.
Getting Ron back here,
Mm-hmm.
worked with him before, you know him so
Yeah.
well, and seeing how he and Austin are interacting. how is that translating to improvement with the coaching throughout the defensive head unit?
Yeah, I would tell you, the more people that you have in both sides, right, in all parts of your staff that have leadership ability, that have significant experience. This is unique in that Ron is kind of the original, created the system, right? So you got the creator of the system, so he knows the entire history, the evolution, right? He can talk about the very beginning, right? And then he's got a number of people that have worked for him in the past that have moved on, whether that's, all levels of football. He's mentored a lot of good coaches that have had success on the defensive side of the ball, right? So it's interesting because he and Austin obviously has worked for him in the past. So there's a healthy respect there. Then you've got Will, who's got coordinator experience, right? And he's worked in some really good defensive systems in the past. So I think there's good camaraderie there. I think those guys are able to put their ego on the shelf, and it's showing up.
When it comes to these new voices and bringing ideas and stuff, could you give us an example, not giving away secrets, but, where some guys come in and said, hey, you ought to try this, or
Yeah.
the technique or something like that?
Yeah, no, I think Joe Houston's done a good job from a situational football standpoint. He's brought a lot to the table. We worked a specific scenario today, where we hard count, and then take a delay, and then we improve our hang putt situation, right? So that's one example. I think we kind of combined the special teams component with the situational football component, the analytics. All of that's under one roof. That's an example, and I think that each day, he's been able to help me. And I think he's been able to help Chris as well, right? So we're getting. He's done a good job in that regard.
When you say situational football, you mean like 4th and 1, go, no go?
Yeah, just field zone, D&D, clock. All the things relative to that. And I think just coaching format of practice, tackling. What's the best drill scenario to teach at a better in a better sequence? I mean, just another set of eyes, right? Just in terms of observing practice and then watching the practice film, So it's been healthy. It's been really healthy.
Has Joe offered anything from an analytical perspective that maybe you thought one way before he got here, and you're like, oh wow, I hadn't really thought about that, and maybe changed some strategic ways?
Yeah, no, I think more of just, hey, this is things we've done in the past, a different level of detail. The NFL, there's no academic meetings, there's no there's no recruiting, official visits, it's ball. So I think there's a different level of detail that they can bring to the table. I think that's been really good.
Tackling has been an issue here for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you weren't happy with
Sure.
tackling last year. We see Will Harris out there acting
Yeah.
tackling dummy.
Yeah.
Ron, I think, is really involved there. Just with the way that practice has to be structured, how can you tackle or teach tackling and get a team ready?
Yeah. There's a lot to be said for consistency in verbiage, across the board, special teams and defense. And then I think that the sequencing of drills, right, to recreate the game for the players and take it step by step. And then you take the practice film and you coach the fundamental situations that show up. It's one of the things that we've done a little bit differently is we are in a team setting. I'm able to coach the entire team relative to those things that show up that apply, maybe to what we've been emphasizing. Okay, hey guys, we worked Texas Vice drill the other day in practice. Here's a good clip of that drill where here it is in a practice setting, and here's the fundamentals to apply, right? So there's no doubt that Ron, Will, and even Joe, have done a good job of helping us develop our plan to improve the tackling.
Are you seeing the potential for more explosiveness in the offense in what you're seeing this year? And would the key maybe to that be the better offensive line play that you're seeing?
Yeah, I would say that's one of the things that stood out to me today was the pocket was cleaner. You know, I think we've added some length on the edges. You know, I think Devin and Brandon in particular, being 6'7", 315 in that range, and having some experience as players, the pocket's cleaner. Even some of the freshmen, you know, Caden Jones, Fletcher Westfall, we're able to protect and hold the ball a little bit longer. So, yeah, I think there's no question Graham Mertz is a very capable passer, and I think he's proved over time when the pocket's clean, he can process and distribute the ball. We still need work with some of these young receivers. We've got some development to do there, but Chim DK's been a nice addition. He's proven here just in a couple of days that I think he can make our team better.
Was Graham part of that evaluation for you guys, or was he, hey, Coach, by the way, I know this guy, like throwing passes to him if you want to reach out to him now he's in the portal?
Yeah, no doubt, 100%. You know, I mean, I think sometimes that's the way it works, you know. But, you know, it gives you conviction. Your personnel people have got an opinion. You know, you go through a process, you've got an opinion. But just to hear it from Graham, I think our strategy with the portal this year was, okay, they've got to bring more to the table than just the production. What are the other extra dimensions, right, from a leadership, character, what type of things that are going to bring to the locker room. And I think that's where Chim, you know, really separated himself. He's a team-oriented guy that's got leadership and character, and he's had a lot of production in the past.
Time for a few more guys. 5 practices, and maybe if you could just provide an injury update on some of the guys who we've seen miss in practice so far.
Yeah, probably 2 significant ones would be Miles Graham. You know, he had a injury coming in, right? We went through phase 1 and phase 2. We kind of set a deadline like, hey, when we get to spring break, if we feel like, hey, this is going to be a long-term issue, we want to go ahead and get it fixed. So we made that decision, and we anticipate getting him back for the fall camp. Cam Waits had a strained calf and soft tissue injury. Nothing major there, but he'll be out for a bit. So those are the main 2. We've got some other soft tissue things, but overall, those are the main 2.
Waits, are you anticipating getting him back this spring, or probably not this spring?
It's probably going to be tight, you know. Probably grade 2 strain there, but not a long-term issue. And he's done a really good job. Had a good off season. Sometimes these soft tissue things are perplexing, but he'll be back.
With Miles, Derek, and Shamar all coming off surgeries,
Right.
what kind of opportunity is that for guys like Manny, Pup, and the rest of the linebackers?
Yeah, no, I think in particular, you know, you take a guy like Manny who's coming back year 2 in the system. You know, I was eating dinner with Manny the other day and just talked about how, man, he's just so much more comfortable just living life, right? Knows the routine, knows where everything's at, comfortable with the defensive system. So he showed up. He's having a good spring camp. And then Pup Howard, obviously, you know, has continued to get reps and looks like he's got a promising future. So, you know, I think sometimes injuries present opportunities. You know, Barber's a little bit banged up, but we're getting, you know, you get these rookies, they're getting valuable reps. It allows you to develop some depth. So, yeah.
Guys, we'll go to Jacob, and then we'll finish with that.
On Manny, we saw him play a really versatile role last year. How is he becoming more comfortable in what you guys are asking of him within this defense, and especially with Ron coming here and how he utilizes that position? What's his responsibility like?
Yeah, I mean, I think Manny had good production at Houston. You know, I mean, he's a size, speed player. He looks the part. I mean, he was like the national special teams player of the year at one point at Houston. And he got a ton of experience last year. So I think new voice in the room, you know, that has a complete understanding of the system, right, and has coached that position in the system. Austin has coached that position in the system, right? So I think that has allowed him continuity in system, and then two guys that have experience coaching the position. Manny's a good example of the entire team. I go back to, we got a lot of guys who have experience that came back. This team is a hungry group. They've got something to prove. I think it has a great mix of veteran leadership and young talent, right? There is something about this group. It's a fun group to coach, and I think the practice environment has reflected that.
Last question.
Yeah, Billy, so you've been through, I think, this is your 7th spring as a head coach?
Yeah,
Be
I
correct?
think so.
So you're pretty meticulous about keeping your records from the past. Do you have some marks that you were hoping to hit by this point? I mean, what did you hope to see by this point? Are you seeing it? And is there a unit maybe that's elevated itself, to where you're kind of like going, yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing?
Yeah, I don't necessarily know that we've got quotas that we're trying to hit or anything like that. I mean, we evaluate every single rep of every single day, right? And then we take the entire practice and then we kind of build our plan for improvement for the next day. I think I would just say I'm evaluating Florida, based off, and obviously it's completely different than Louisiana to some degree in terms of the evolution of our team. But experience matters, and I think we had 20,000 snaps of experience, I think, year 1 and year 2. And we're working with a group that's got 41,000 snaps of experience, right? So it's a veteran team. There's a different level of leadership, accountability, the character dynamic. Just look forward to coming to work, and I think the new staff has created some energy, and they're making an impact. The combination of those two things has me excited. I think I believe in our team. I do. I walked off the field today. I think we got a chance to have a good football team.
Position group? Split out?
Yeah.
I know you don't like
Secondary.
to
I think that the secondary obviously got some. Gates is coming back from injury. You've got those young players that have experience. Devin, Sharif Denson, Jordan Castell, Bryce Thornton, all those freshmen that played, right, are back. Then you throw Jason Marshall in the mix, and then you add a couple of these portal safeties. I think that group is making progress. I like the offensive line. I think that the height and length on the edges, the moves we took, Damian, move him in the guard. Jake got significant experience. We just got more depth than we've had. I think that's and therefore we have competition. Therefore practice is more competitive, and we can make adjustments. You're either above the line or below the line each day, and hey, your reps are being adjusted. And this competition, I think, makes everybody better, right? So, there are positions that need to improve, but I don't know that that's for public. I mean, we're always, at this point in the process, the team has to continue to improve each individual, each position group, the units. But we're a more experienced team.
All right, thank you, Coach.